Welcome to Stribling's New York. I am your host, Rob Taub, on WOR AM Radio, iHeartMedia, number 710 on your digital dial. This is a show about business, culture, people, with a wide range of guests from authors, producers, actors, artists, and restaurateurs, as well as people like Melissa Cohn, who you're going to hear later from the world of real estate, who will tell you about buying, selling, or renting a home or apartment. We also have Franklin Becker from Little Beat Restaurant, which is located at the new Penzi at Penn Station, and Robert Wolf, who is an icon in the world of business. He is the former president of UBS Bank and he now runs 32 advisors. But first, we are going to have two actors on who are from Fiddler on the Roof, which is the first Broadway show I ever saw, and I saw the original cast with Zero Mostel. Last week we were talking about Gabriel Byrne and when I worked with him in Miller's Crossing, and I thought that my grandfather was Hugo from Iceman Cometh. My other part of my family, my other grandfather, I thought he was Tevye in Fiddler on the Roof. And I think it was Cary Grant who said, dress British and think Yiddish, or either that's a line from the show. But today we have Alexandra Silber and Adam Kantor. Alexandra was described by the New York Times as being glamorous and hyper-articulate, as opposed to me, who is a blabbermouth with a radio face. And Adam was described by somebody walking through the door as remarkably handsome, talented, and wonderful. So welcome to the show, guys. I'm not going to even, you can tell us everything about the show. I will say this. So Mostel was quite an overbearing character and actually used to do imitations of other cast members in the show and really annoy everybody to death, even though he was brilliant. And this is a different kind of production, which I love, by the way. And so we could talk about that, about what Bartlett Sher has done to change the show and to make it a really unbelievably popular and successful revival.
Sure.
Go.
First of all, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It's always good to talk about the work. And I think Bart and the entire creative team has attempted to take this beloved piece, this beloved musical that I think people have a very potent relationship with the musical itself, and stripped all of those preconceived notions and memories away, not to disregard them, but to actually just go back to what the people of Anatevka, what the actual story is. And so it's there's something about it that's incredibly bare and human and exposed, and it's a joy to play because it feels very alive.
He's also made it very relevant for today. With, of course, we're dealing with the largest refugee crisis since World War II, and there's something that's very real and alive about the piece right now in 2016.
Well, so tell us about the different parts that both of you play. Adam, you play Moidel the Tailor.
Mottel.
Oh, my Yiddish is so terrible.
It's okay. It's not
Mottel.
funny.
And Mottel is not a moil, but perhaps after his tailoring, goes south.
He's got good hands.
It's true. He's very precise. So I think a career as a moil is perhaps in the works. But I play Mottel the Tailor. And
I play Zeitel, Tevye's oldest daughter. And our characters and our lifelong playmates and end up indeed getting married and having a family. And I think one of the joys of it is there's a real delicious exploration that Adam and I have engaged in, which is this, unlike the other couples in the show, Model and Seidel have known each other their entire lives and have loved each other in some form their entire lives, and so it's a very old relationship.
Did Tevye promise you, though, to anybody else, for those of us that don't know the story?
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Yes, matchmaking was, and in many ways still is, in certain parts of the world and certain parts of not just this culture but others. Arranged marriages were just the norm. They were financial, they were status related, and so he promises her to a very wealthy older widower named, of all things, Laser Wolf the Butcher, because with a butcher his daughter will surely never know hunger. And Model is a poor tailor and isn't even considered an option. because also love and feelings and any kind of romantic choice was just simply not part of the culture. So Model and Seidel are the first to break this tradition and bring this culture into the next wave of modernity.
Watch me. So I'm going to bring this into the modern age. This was the Match.com of its day, except with your parents interfering and picking the dates.
I mean, let's
for
be
you.
specific. It's probably J-Date.
Yes, I should say J-Date.
Or J Swipe.
Yeah, J-Swipe.
Well, no, I mean, we don't have the option to swipe left or swipe right. That's
We
the
don't
thing.
have the option. Yeah, I think it's, and I think
You only get one picture with the matchmaker.
That's
Right,
right. Yeah, of
exactly.
course. I think the thing that's been really interesting also, we had the beginning of our process was so delicious, especially for people like Adam and I that are sort of like closet academics. We had a lot of lecturers come in, a lot of experts, both from the world of Judaism, rabbinical experts, and also the historical experts that were just really trying to convey to us that this didn't feel like imprisonment to these women until they started to question it. It was considered loving to take care of your children, to
And
marry them
until
off well. Yeah.
Western ideals started to infiltrate the community.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I think we have to remember this. My grandfather grew up in Siberia, the one who was like Tevye, and
Really?
he said, I was like, how do you live like that? He goes, what did we know? I never heard of Miami Beach.
That's hilarious.
This was how we lived.
Where was he in Siberia?
I don't. Supposedly they lived on a. They had to go to the mainland on a lake, and they lost 7 or 8 brothers and sisters falling through the ice. It was
Wow.
very a lot of apocryphal stories. I'm sure. We walked
Goodness.
50 miles
Yes.
just to see it build a snowman.
But they
Yes.
probably did. But it was
Yes.
more like 50,000 kilometers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He never complained.
Well,
I can't wait for that documentary coming out about the woman who lives in Siberia
Yeah.
all alone and makes ends meet for herself.
totally, and didn't realize about the entire Soviet system, and
And
had
you
no
went
idea.
to Siberia.
I've been to Siberia. That's why I ask. Yeah,
That's why you were asking.
yeah. It's. I mean, it's beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen on planet Earth.
so you're like, oh, not so bad to be exiled there. And
Well, I
We
went.
lived in the Jewish section.
To
of
be
Siberia.
fair, I went. To be fair, I went to. I went in August. So to be fair, but and I went to Lake Baikal, which is enchanting. But I did stay and see a couple of what in the imperial system were called katorgas, in the Soviet system called gulags, and they were harrowing. They were harrowing.
Okay, we're not going to go to the gulags. It is too harrowing. But
It's too early in the morning.
let's
It's
talk
not
about-
even noon. Yeah.
we could talk about Pace University. Alexandra, also
Oh.
AKA Al. You're also a teacher there.
I am. I'm Professor Silber. I
Yes,
love.
doctor.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. I call them my babies. Yeah, I teach acting in the musical theater program down at Pace, and usually I teach foundations to the freshmen, which is all based in classical acting. So we do Stanislavski, Udo Hagen, kind of train them in both the European and American traditions, and then we end the year with Greek tragedies. So they kind of get a nice crash
just to
course.
end on a nice high note.
Well, Adam,
Yeah,
I want to
exactly.
ask you a question because you were in Rent,
Yeah.
and so which had such an intense youthful following. I remember when
Yes.
my kids were
Yes.
in school, and everybody was obsessed with that show. So are
Yeah.
you getting a young audience? And if not, let's make them come to see Fiddler on the Roof. And and let's tell what theater are you at?
So we're at the Broadway Theater. The Broadway.
Yeah.
I believe Al Jolson was in that theater at one time.
So many
years ago.
people. Danny Burstein Artevia just put out a post of all the people that were
Really?
who've played the Broadway Theater. It's kind of incredible when you think about that
Amazing.
history.
Think about who's walked through that
But-
stage door.
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
know,
yeah,
right?
of
To
course.
answer your question, I mean, yeah, the Rent. I'd say every night at the stage door, there's at least 1 or 2 people who've seen the Rent DVD. So they filmed the final performance of Rent. Sony Pictures filmed it, and it's on DVD and iTunes, etc. And that production is sort of pervaded many different subcultures around the world, and so I get people all the time who saw that DVD and who are still seeing it. So it's cool how that usually you do a show and that's sort of it. It's
Ephemeral.
It's ephemeral.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's cool to have something that can live on.
Do we have a website? Fiddler on Broadway.
I think it's Fiddler.
Just Google Fiddler on the Roof. Go to the Broadway Theater. Do we have the cast album out yet? CD, DVD?
There may be one coming. We're not sure.
Okay.
But keep your eyes peeled. And
Then
ears
you're
peeled.
just going to have to see the show multiple times.
That's
right.
right.
I know I have.
Oh, well, thank you for coming to our wedding, is what we always like to say. We're happy to have you.
Thank you for joining us on the show. It was really wonderful having you here.
Good to be here.
Bye-bye.
If I were a rich man, yabba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dum. All day long I biddy-biddy-bum. If I were a wealthy man, I wouldn't have to work hard. Yabba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba.